Well, guys, it's looking like this is not going to be a run of the mill kind of week. This may end up being one of the most important weeks in the history of crypto. And whether our competitor chains would like to admit it or not, Cardano is right smack dab in the middle of it. If you are not relishing the idea of your grandmother hounding you about which crypto ETF she should buy, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Well, guys, it may actually be time. We've been talking about this for years and years and years. This was discussed in crypto long before this channel existed, long before these 679 episodes. People have been talking about a crypto ETF of any kind, usually Bitcoin, but pretty much any kind, because this represents one of those necessary steps that I think we all knew had to happen to unlock mainstream adoption. This is one of those things that maybe a lot of the crypto diehards, and I probably count myself among those ranks, doesn't love the idea of. We don't necessarily love the idea of Wall Street institutions coming into crypto at all, and especially not in such a big way. That's why you see here a tsunami of dollars engulfing this town, this building, at least this street in this town. And there are good things and bad things here. I mean, the dollars, it is a tsunami of dollars. Everybody likes dollars, but it's also a tsunami. There are going to be some bad things that come along with this. I don't think anybody's been dying for BlackRock to be a part of crypto. But we also know this is something that probably had to happen. Why? Because we've talked for a long time about the day when your grandma would even be able to buy crypto. Because let's face it, there are grandmas out there who have crypto. There are tons of them, but not your average grandma. I know there are grandmas out there that probably have like 5 ledgers and they love crypto and they're on crypto Twitter every single day. We've even got a few of those in Cardano. And grandfathers. This is not a gender thing. This is just an average non-crypto person thing. Now we've finally reached that point where it's no longer this very small minority of those types of people who are involved in crypto, because it wasn't easy to even buy crypto. It wasn't easy to understand crypto. But most of all, it wasn't easy to buy crypto. Now we're going to have these crypto exchange traded funds. And at first, they're all going to be Bitcoin exchange traded funds. But this will be the first time when your grandma, just this hypothetical non-crypto person, again, not really about the gender, but your grandma will be able to buy crypto in a way where you won't have to worry about explaining to her what a seed phrase is or how to use a ledger or even what a hardware wallet is generically. She won't need any of that. She can just invest in the ETF in the normal way she would invest in any kind of normal financial asset that a person in her position would invest in. It's going to be an exchange traded fund. It's going to be out there in the TradFi world. And let's face it, a lot of grandmas have TradFi assets. It's very easy, normal, standard for them. Crypto has never been that. Crypto has always been the exact opposite of that. So all of a sudden, we are going to see some kind of an influx of all that TradFi fiat money into crypto. All that mainstream money is going to be coming into crypto. We've talked about this for so long. We've talked about the mainstream herd coming to crypto. We've talked about the tsunami of mainstream adoption one day. Now we finally reached that point, and it's not a done deal yet, but it kind of looks like it's a done deal. First, we heard that the ETF applicants were all going to hear an answer by last Friday. Then we heard, no, maybe it's somewhere between Friday and Monday that they're going to hear. Now we're starting to hear things like maybe they're expecting to hear, maybe BlackRock is expecting to hear by like Wednesday. We don't know, but it's kind of looking like this week is going to be that big week when crypto ETFs all of a sudden become a thing. They won't really become a thing for a little while longer, a number of days longer, but we're going to get the word about approval of these ETF applications, and we'll know for sure that shortly these crypto ETFs will become a thing. In case you're concerned that all the initial ETFs are about Bitcoin, I would say don't worry. Cardano is and has been for a very long time a top 10 crypto asset. It was always going to be Bitcoin first. That was always going to be the initial step that TradFi would take into crypto in this way. So don't worry, this week is going to be all about the Bitcoin ETFs, but this is just the beginning. So, why is everybody so confident that this is going to happen? Here's one perspective on that. This poster says if the SEC were to deny all spot BTC ETFs, the applicants would immediately sue, and the DC Court of Appeals would again rule that the SEC was arbitrary and capricious. The SEC gave every reason they had for denying Grayscale and lost. I expect multiple approvals on January 10th. Of course, as soon as crypto found out that BlackRock was involved, there was speculation about what the negotiations might have looked like. So we've procured a little CCTV footage of the actual negotiations, and I think you get the picture. But then again, simultaneously, we knew that things like this were going on. This post says the fact that Better Markets, a special interest connected to the Dragon, who has been caught unethically coordinating softball questions to Gary Gensler, expended significant resources to put this letter together in the 11th hour makes me think we may yet get rugged. So I haven't verified the relationship between the Dragon and Better Markets, but this letter seems to say exactly what you'd expect. Even on this first page, if we look at this paragraph, the DC Circuit's decision in Grayscale should not cause the SEC to deviate from its previous well grounded decisions, disapproving multiple spot Bitcoin based ETPs from multiple exchanges. And in their terminology, an ETP exchange traded product. So what does this show us? What we already knew. The Dragon really hates crypto. The Dragon has been on a one Dragon mission to do everything possible to cripple, hamper, slow, and be an obstacle to the adoption of crypto. Everything that one Dragon senator could possibly do to slow down and impair the growth of crypto, the Dragon has done, even at this very late date. Look at this, January 5th. This was just Friday. This letter went out on Friday. And I can't remember. I think it went out late in the day. I can't really remember, but I started seeing things about it late in the day. So I mean, obviously, great way to avoid the news cycle. Send something out on Friday that won't really hit the social media platforms or the news wires until very late in the day. This is kind of what we expect from the Dragon, but can it? What kind of we don't really know. I guess I should say we don't really know. We don't really know what kind of impact this could have, but it looks like the people who hate crypto and really, really don't want crypto to thrive, to be something that people have access to, they're not giving up. They haven't just like rolled over and given up. They will pretty much do anything to either stop crypto or at least create the impression they're doing everything possible to stop crypto. Speaking of Grayscale, Jake Chervinsky makes a very good point here. He posts, it took over 10 years, but we're finally on the verge of having spot Bitcoin ETFs approved in the USA. Yes, we are, parenthetical. Many deserve credit for this milestone, but chiefly Grayscale and its lawyers who had the guts to fight this out in court and won. Let's fight more in 2024. And don't forget, Grayscale has featured Cardano in its products in the past. If I'm remembering correctly, that was the digital asset large cap fund and the smart contract platform X ETH fund. I might be messing up those names a little bit there, but Grayscale has included Cardano in the past. And the reason for that is not really a surprise for those of us in Cardano. It's because Cardano is always building and always growing, as you can see from this post. Total transactions for all Cardano DApps that we are tracking on dappsoncardano.com, currently 92 DApps. I don't know how many Cardano DApps you've ever used, but I'm guessing it's not 92. That is a huge number of DApps. This is the kind of stuff we dreamed about back back at the time of the Wyoming Cardano Summit. This would have been someone's fantasy that there'd be 92 dApps that people are actually using in Cardano. Okay, I don't know how much people are using the 92nd largest dApp here, but people are definitely using Cardano dApps. As you can see from this graph, this chart is of transactions for the last 3 months, and there's been a gigantic increase. We were clear down here at Epic 451, and now we're clear up here. What is this going to look like over the next 24 months when things are in full swing? But speaking of Cardano DApp usage, do not forget, as we get into these next 24 months, things are going to go crazy. Everybody's going to get FOMO, and people are going to be degenning into all kinds of exotic financial positions that exist in crypto that we all know about and probably seem pretty normal, but are very exotic and can be extremely brutal. Here's a post. Oof, there was someone who got liquidated for 245,000 ADA on Indigo. That hurts AF. So this can happen, guys. You need to be aware. It's very tempting to think about the upside in DeFi, to think about how much money you could make if you just, have a smart enough take a smart enough chance, take a smart enough risk. You can make so much money. There's also this downside. This happens. People get liquidated for gigantic amounts of money and they lose life changing amounts of money. I mean, you might say, oh, 245,000 ADA on January 3rd, that's only X amount. But if you believe a parabolic high might be coming sometime in the next 24 months, how much is it going to be on the day of that parabolic top? How much money are we talking about here? This is a gigantic amount of money for any normal person. You need to be really careful. DeFi doesn't care about you. DeFi platforms don't care about you. Protocols don't care about you. They are just doing their blockchain thing. They're cold, heartless ones and zeros. There is no one looking out for you. Don't take these chances and get liquidated or otherwise lose these life-changing amounts of money. Remember, DeFi is brutal. It doesn't care about you, and there's not really anybody else looking out for you either. Only you are looking out for you. Cardano is kind of a different place. As much as I just did that public service announcement about how even Cardano DeFi doesn't care about you and you can easily lose gigantic sums of money, Cardano is a little bit different kind of place. Stake with Pride had this post calling this a tale of two blockchains. I think this is also even a tale of Cardano versus every other blockchain, but especially the one in question here. But I think it applies to a lot of different blockchains. There's a difference in Cardano in that we never gave up. We haven't given up. I think a lot of the rest of blockchain, they've already given up. The people who came up with the ideas, they made their money long ago, and everybody else is just sort of recycling those ideas, doing the same thing over and over again, trying to make their little derivative bit of that cash. But in Cardano, it seems like we haven't given up on innovation. We still believe that we can do better. We can create a better financial system, a better economic playing field. That's a big part of Cardano. We think we can do better. Cardano, a Gen 3 blockchain. We knew we could do better than Ethereum. And we're still moving forward. We didn't just stop at Gen 3. We're still moving forward, trying to create more innovation. But that's not the case across the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So here we see a post from Anatoly Yakovenko. I assume this is a screenshot, but there is a blue check mark. It says, "My bold prediction, there are no longer any order of magnitude improvements to blockchain technology left." So there you have it from Mr. Solana himself saying there are no longer any order of magnitude improvements to blockchain technology left. What does Cardano say about that? Well, in comes Charles. He says, "We got one or two left for the layer one." And I think this is true. This is, I've said it many times. My bet on in crypto in general, I'll say it, my bet in crypto in general has maybe all my bets ever, except for Bitcoin. And you'll understand why when I say this. My bets have always been on the jockey, not necessarily the horse. With Bitcoin, it was different because nobody knew where Satoshi was. So maybe I wasn't betting on the jockey in that case because for all we knew, he was dead. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's not. Depends on what you believe there. But with everything else, it's basically been a bet on the jockey. And Cardano, Charles is not the only jockey of Cardano, but I think the principles that he's espoused are present in all of the people who we might say are the jockeys of Cardano. And it's been this relentless pursuit of innovation. It's never been about, hey guys, let's just rebuild Ethereum. Let's create another EVM chain and we'll also not be able to do sharding and we'll just create a bunch of ZK layer 2s that are maybe ultra centralized. That's never been what Cardano's been about. Cardano's always been about doing better, pushing harder. It's because we never gave up. I mean, the jumps from pre-Bitcoin to Satoshi's white paper to the introduction of smart contracts with Ethereum, to the introduction of proof of stake, and then Gen 3 with Cardano, proof of stake, plus smart contracts, plus UTXO, plus functional programming. I mean, we've had some giant jumps in crypto. And one of the things I've always loved about Cardano is we never gave up. We never said like, oh, great, everybody's made enough money, or at least the founders have. So here you go. Here's our blockchain that runs. Sometimes we have to turn it on and off, but it runs. That's not been the case with Cardano. With Cardano, first of all, we don't have to turn our blockchain off and on like some other nameless blockchains that may or may not be involved in this post. But we never gave up. The blockchain does run. We've got this thriving ecosystem. Like we just saw in that previous post, what was it 92 DApps? Thriving ecosystem. A lot of these dApps, a lot of these platforms, protocols are brand new. They've been around for a number of months. It's like this brand new, flourishing, blossoming ecosystem. And yet still, we're not happy with that. We're like, let's keep pushing. A lot of ecosystems would just chill right now. They'd coast in the next 24 months, knowing what always happens after the Bitcoin halving events. That's not the case in Cardano. In Cardano, we see Cardano at the very top of the developer activity lists, like always, because Cardano never gave up. Speaking of Satoshi, here's a very important post commemorating a very important event. Crypto is no longer brand new. We still sort of act like crypto is like a year old or something, or like 2 years old, because the ideas are so fresh and different and innovative. But we're no longer brand new. We're like old salty veterans in this weird what do we even call it? This weird alternative fintech space that we've created and we are the sole denizens of. We're a salty old veteran in that space because crypto, crypto guys, is 15 years old. Here's Ledger with a very good post. On this day, 15 years ago, Satoshi Nakamoto mined the very first block of Bitcoin, block number 0, the Genesis block, which gave public existence to the Bitcoin network. Do you know how much the reward was for mining it? And then, of course, that's just a little engagement farming on their part because they want people to start, discussing. 15 years is a long time, guys. 15 years is very long for an economic and social network. And that could be a whole long discussion in and of itself. What is crypto really? Is it an economic network? Is it a social network? Is it a technological network? It's all of these things. And it's been around the concept of crypto has been around in the form of blockchain and in the form of Bitcoin and many successor blockchains for 15 years now. We don't need to act like we're brand new. We don't need to apologize for being the new kid on the block anymore. We're the experienced veterans now. Guys, I'm going to admit it. Sometimes I don't love US politics. Sometimes it seems depressing and sad, and it seems like there's a lack of choice. And one of two buffoons is getting shoved down our throats. And DC seems like a swamp, and it makes you want to make it. It's just not encouraging. You don't look at US politics and say, man, that is a well oiled machine, and the outcomes are all exactly like they should be. It seems the exact opposite. But occasionally, there's this gleaming ray of hope. And I like to think in crypto and in the Army of Spies, Army of Spies being not me, but all of us together, me and everybody who watches these videos. I think all of us together, we're probably a very, big, wide part of the political spectrum. I think there are people from the very furthest reaches of the political spectrum, and we all sort of come together as part of these videos. And I respect that. I think it's great. I wouldn't want to have it any other way. So don't take this as, any particular we're just going to look at this in terms of crypto. We're going to look at this particular post in terms of crypto, but I love it when we have two guys who are obviously, going to be well, I'll say right now, they're obviously the candidates for their particular parties, the two big parties in the US. We have two individuals like that, and neither one of them really cares about crypto. And then you see every other candidate in the race who matters having a big crypto plank in their platform. It's encouraging. It's this shining, gleaming ray of hope. And maybe nobody among the other candidates, I shouldn't say that because it seems like all the other candidates that matter all love crypto. But one candidate who's certainly been very outspoken on the topic is Robert Kennedy Jr. Here's a post about RFK Jr. And the post is this, and I'm not vouching for the veracity of this post, but I just love the ring of it. RFK Jr. is promising no taxes on Bitcoin, backing the US dollar with Bitcoin. We've talked about this second one before. This is, I believe, if I recall correctly, it's actually backing the US dollar with various assets that could include Bitcoin. But last I heard him talk about it, that's what I heard. This first one is also very interesting. No taxes on Bitcoin. Could this possibly, in any realistic world, mean you can buy a bunch of crypto or Bitcoin and, buy it at the bottom, sell it at the top, and pay no taxes? No, realistically, that's not what that means. But here's that's unrealistic. But what we could hope for is a de minimis tax exemption. One of the things, besides the block size war that crippled the use of Bitcoin and crypto in general in everyday transactions, was the lack of a de minimis tax exemption. We have this in other countries. So think about this. I've talked about this before on the channel, but it's been a long time. So think about this. When you go and earn a dollar, you get a dollar in your paycheck, and then you go and you spend a dollar somewhere. You don't have to worry about whether or not that dollar has gone up in the foreign exchange markets against every other fiat currency in the world. You don't say to yourself, oh, wow, we're really up against the yen. I'm going to have to pay taxes on the amount my dollar has appreciated since I earned it until now, the point when I'm spending it at, you know, the coffee shop. You don't have to think about that. In crypto, it's completely the opposite. You can't spend crypto without having to worry about what taxes you're going to pay on the amount it's appreciated since the time you acquired that crypto. That's because we don't have a de minimis tax exemption. You can't just go buy a cup of coffee with crypto and say, oh, it's just a cup of coffee. I don't have to pay taxes if that crypto doubled in value since I earned it. According to the IRS, you do, because we don't have a de minimis tax exemption. This is something that a candidate like RFK, if they were elected, not saying it's going to happen, but if they were elected, this is something they could push for, a de minimis tax exemption on crypto, so that crypto could be used for its actual use case, which is as money. We talk all the time about smart contracts and DeFi and all this other stuff. And granted, DeFi does involve money, but the real use case of crypto is a different money. It's to be money. A lot of you weren't around for the block size wars, but prior to the block size civil war, there weren't too many people running around saying that Bitcoin was anything but money. And then all of a sudden, after the block size civil war, it's like, oh, it's a store of value. It's not really money. It's not peer to peer money, even though it says it is in the Satoshi white paper. Crypto could be money again if we get a de minimis tax exemption. This is something that everybody in crypto should get behind. I don't know if we're going to have a pro crypto candidate winning the election this time. I don't know. Nobody really knows. But pretty much all the important candidates, other than the two who are currently slated to be the candidates for the two big parties, pretty much every other candidate is pro crypto. So that gives me hope that next time, maybe not this time, but maybe next time, next election, in another 4 years, we'll have a whole slate where we can confidently say, hey, it looks like we're going to get a pro crypto White House. When that actually happens, maybe the de minimis tax exemption is something we should push for, because let's face it, deep down, everybody knows the real use case for crypto is money. There's a lot of other awesome use cases, especially in Cardano, but the big one has always been money. Never forget, guys, in Cardano, we are always shooting for number one. This is not a contest where Cardano is just trying to be in the race. Cardano is always coming to take over. We're not just trying to take part, we're trying to take over. And because of that, we have to keep an eye on our biggest competitor, which is always Ethereum. And let me tell you, it looks like things are not looking good in Ethereum. Back in the day in Ethereum, you would see criticism of glorious leader Vitamin sometimes, but not often. Now, little bit different story. Here we see a post that says from Vitamin, by popular demand, an updated roadmap diagram for 2023. And this was on December 30th, 2023. Um, does he mean 2024 on this? Maybe he means 2024, or is this? Yeah, I can't tell. It's hard to tell with his diagrams because they say to the past, to the future, but some kind of a roadmap from Vitamin on December 30th, 2023, and it's actually kind of interesting. If you look through it, it's interesting to see where they're going. They haven't gotten rid of their mini labels: the merge, the surge, the scourge, the verge, the purge, the splurge. Didn't we already have the splurge? No, we had the scourge. So, anyways, the Dr. Susie labels have not left, at least in this diagram, but you do see different tone, a different tenor of response to these posts these days. And this is why I say that things aren't looking good in the camp of Cardano's biggest competitor. This toast says Ethereum is as toast as Bitcoin if this is accepted. The only proposed way to scale Ethereum is through corrupt centralized L2s. L1 sharding is not even mentioned anymore. And this is something I've covered over the last couple of years. Even at the start of this channel, it was already apparent that sharding was just kind of cross-fading into the shadows. Sharding was something that was a centerpiece of the Ethereum scaling plans in the early days of Ethereum. This was something that was very commonly thought of, at least, in the minds of everybody I knew. It was like that was the plan for scaling. And then already when this channel started, it was sort of cross fading into the shadows, just sort of dissipating into the fog. And now we've reached that point where people in Ethereum are pointing out L1 sharding is not even mentioned anymore. And the roadmap that's being laid out only proposes to scale Ethereum through corrupt centralized L2s. So it really does seem, and it seemed for a couple of years, like Ethereum has pushed itself into this corner where the choices are sharding, which obviously is not a practical possibility anymore, or at least it seems like it's not a practical possibility anymore. And then on the other hand, your choice is L2s with all of the kinds of centralization and lack of decentralization, centralized characters, custodianship, all the problems that are discussed ad nauseum in the EVM world, all of those problems with the L2s. I'm not so sure Ethereum can avoid stagnation, both in terms of social support for the network and in terms of actual innovation in the future. Who knows? Maybe Emperor Vitamin will pull something out of the hat, surprise everybody. That's always possible. But it's looking like maybe Ethereum is going to go into this period of stagnation. Meanwhile, Cardano will be surging and innovating and moving forward and getting bigger and better like always. I hope you had a great weekend and you're looking forward to a great week. I'll talk to you soon.